Very good. I now call to order the 1182nd meeting of the Board of Library Trustees. Today is April 16th. Executive Assistant Bender, may I have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Trustee Wong.
Here.
Trustee Wittenberry.
Here.
Trustee Uno.
Here.
Trustee Easton.
Here.
And Trustee Butler.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. And now at this time, a salute to the flag led by Trustee Easton.
Everyone rise.
Ready, begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Now, can I have a motion to adopt this evening's agenda as presented?
I move to adopt the agenda.
Motion made by Trustee Easton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion clearly passes. And moving on to some remarks, I just wanted to share the schedule of upcoming special meetings related to the board's evaluation of the director's annual performance. The first one of the series of 3 meetings will be next Thursday, April 23rd, from 1 to 3, here at the Peninsula Center in the Purcell Room. The second one will be preceding our regular board meeting on May 21st at 5 o'clock in the Malaga Cove Tower Room. And then in June, we'll have one on the 18th from 5 to 6 here in this very room. Excuse me, the conference room, but at the Peninsula Center. And then I'd also like to mention the next regularly scheduled board meeting, next month's, the May 2026 meeting, will be on May 21st, and will be held in the community room at Malaga Cove Library at 6 o'clock instead of here at Peninsula Center. I'd also like to mention congratulations to the City of Rolling Hills Estates on the groundbreaking of the brand new George F. Canyon Nature Center. It's an exciting project with funding from various sources. The groundbreaking ceremony happened a few weeks ago and was quite well attended with representatives from different government agencies and nonprofits who were involved, and Secretary Wittenberry was there with me, and very interesting, and I think it's going to be a very promising, interesting place for many people to use in the future. And that's all I have in this portion. Does any other trustee have comments or announcements to share at this point? Okay. Item number 6, Executive Assistant Bender. Are there any public comments tonight?
No, sir.
Okay. Then moving on to the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to approve the items and recommended actions in the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Seeing none opposed, it passes 5-0. And then I think we'll now turn it over to Director Addington to go over some upcoming board conferences and events.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So we just have a few to call out and remind the trustees of. The first being that on Thursday, April 23rd, the Rolling Hills Estates will be celebrating Earth Day at City Hall. From 3:30 to 6, PVLD will have a table at this event. So if you're interested in stopping by, we would welcome you to be there. I would also like to acknowledge that on Saturday, April 25th, we are hosting PVLD's annual Volunteer Appreciation Event. This event will be at 1 p.m. at the Malaga Cove Library, Gallery, and Garden. So we certainly hope to see the trustees there if we can. I'd also like to acknowledge that while it's not on the agenda, because of the postponement of the Whale of a Day event that was supposed to happen on the 11th, it does unfortunately conflict now with the Volunteer Appreciation event. The Whale of a Day event will be held on Saturday, April 25th. Now, it is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if the trustees are so inclined, you could certainly go to Whale of a Day first and then come to our Volunteer Appreciation event. The library will have a table as usual at Whale of a Day, so we will have outreach opportunities and we will be connecting with the community. Might be a little bit challenging for me to get to both because we do have some coordinating for the volunteer event, but it is certainly an option should the trustees want to do both, and I did want to bring that to your attention.
Director Addington, can I just clarify what time that volunteer appreciation event begins?
It's at 1 p.m.
Okay, because I had 11 to 1 originally.
I have 11 to 1, too.
You know what? I think you're right. I think the agenda is slightly off. 11 to 1. I believe that is correct. I will double check that and send out an email to just confirm to everybody exactly what the times are. The next event we just wanted to bring to your attention was on Saturday, May 9th. This is the annual Mayor's Breakfast Ride. The ride starts at City Hall at 8:30 a.m., and there's the Scouts Pancake Breakfast. This is at Ernie Howlett Park. President Butler will be there, and I will be in attendance this year as well, one of the first years that I've ever gone. Not sure if I'll get a horse, but we'll see. So it could be a rather amusing event if that happens, but I'm very happy to go. And then I also wanted to call out that on Thursday, May 21st, the State of the Peninsula Breakfast is happening. This is a PV Chamber event. It will be at the Terranea Resort, and it begins at 7:30 a.m. If you have any further questions on any of these, please reach out, and we can get you additional information. And that's all we have for upcoming events.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments at this point? All right, now I'll ask Facilities Manager Gutierrez to join us up here and provide us with the monthly update on facilities.
Hello, good evening. We'll start with some smaller things before we finish off with the update on the entryway. Some good news for my department. We have hired 2 new employees that will be starting by mid-May, and so I did have a meeting with one of them today and walked them around Peninsula Center, and they start on Monday, and we're really looking forward to being back at full staff. We did have our internal candidate, Franklin Portillo, take our Maintenance 6 position as well, which opened up 2 Maintenance 1 positions, which we were able to fill at the same time because we were already having Maintenance 1 interviews, and so that went very well. We had over 50 applicants for the Maintenance 1, and so it was a very competitive field, and I feel like we got some really good candidates, so we're excited about that. And last month, or a little while ago, we were contacted by the South Bay Cities Council of Government, and they were interested in doing a power audit throughout our district and seeing if we can be certified green business and see what grants we might be able to qualify for to, help out with insulating heating pipes or changing out water heaters, something to make us a little bit more efficient. And so they had come through and audited all 3 buildings. I haven't heard anything about Peninsula Center yet. That was the most recent one that was done, but we have met the thresholds, and we are in the process of becoming certified green businesses for Merrill West and Malaga Cove. They were very excited to walk our buildings, and we were very excited to show them around and all of the work that we have been doing over the last decade to become more efficient and our power usage and our electric fleet and LED lighting and our chiller and all of those things that we've done. So they were pretty impressed with everything that we have done, and so far it's been a pretty smooth system moving forward. So the agency that would be certifying us as green businesses is the California Green Business Network. And so we're excited to be a part of that and then, see what we might be able to get as far as some grants for some of the little things that we might be missing here and there. But overall, that was a really nice experience so far. The last update I gave on the Deep Valley was that when we were drilling the caissons, we did hit some concrete that was underneath, and we were going to have to excavate to see what is under there and what we might need to move. And so through the last month, we have done that excavation. We did find a few different rows of concrete that were down there. And so we had a full powwow with the engineers and the architect and a couple subs and the general contractor, and put our brains together about the best way to move forward and what our limitations are to be able to move some of those caissons from the engineering And so we did create a plan of attack, and what we want to do is create the voided space of where the caissons can go, which we have done and we have marked out, and then get the drill back out here and make sure that we can drill those to the depth that is needed. Because we dug down 7-8 feet, but past 7-8 feet, we don't know. So at this point, I have instructed that company to come out and do the drilling. The drill should be here tomorrow. If not, it'll be here early next week, and we should get that going. And I let the engineering firm know that we're going to have them engineer to the conditions that are here, so that we are not doing change order after change order after change order on them re-engineering that system on something that we're not exactly sure is going to work. So that's where we're at right now. We have made demo progress. Most of the demo is completed now at this point, and we're just waiting to see how far those caissons are going to go down, because if it does go down more than the 30 feet that's spec'd, then we might need to re-engineer them to be a little bit wider or have a different metal cage that goes inside of them. And all of those things would be change orders that would be triggered if we went ahead and said, okay, yes, design it to what we think it's going to be rather than to the conditions that exist. And so since we had that opportunity and an opportunity to save at that point, that's the way that we're moving forward. Once we start on the new build stuff, things will start moving a little bit faster. Every little flexibility is key during this demo point, because we never know what exactly we're going to run into, especially with this building. And so that's been kind of holding us up and slowing us down, but I think we're moving forward. We've got a good plan. Once we get the engineering together, we'll have to have the city look over that as well, and then we'll be able to move forward with actually starting to put things back. And that's a really exciting portion of where we're at. So we're starting to break through. We are just about to order the furniture for out front. We've been working with the Friends of the Library and that, and having meetings and coming up with color codes and the funding side of it and what we're going to look for and quantities. And we're really excited with what we've come up with. I think it's going to be some signature pieces when we're out there that kind of match the decor of our building. There's just a couple little amendments on the proposal that I'm waiting for before I can pull that trigger for us to purchase that. We have also been working with the same ad hoc committee for the engraving on the paver stones. And so we're moving forward on, different methods on engraving those stones. We were trying laser, but the stone, it ends up being a very much harder material than what people had thought. And so the laser engraving isn't quite working out, even though we've got some samples on that. And so we've pivoted to sandblasting, and we're seeing how the sandblasting is going to go. We actually just got a mock-up late last night that we're kind of looking over to see what that's going to be and make a decision on what that sample is going to be. But that route sounds pretty promising. So we're looking forward to moving on that and nailing down the policy and how the purchasing and the administrative side of that process is going to go. So Director Addington and I have been working with the Friends on that, and we've made some good progress. So, one side has been having to sit idle, quote, we've been moving on everything else that we can. So, yeah. Any questions?
Due to the issue with the caissons, has that affected the budget at all at this point?
Right now, we're at about $20,000 in excavation. And then there will be a change order for the engineering once that comes down. I haven't even gotten the proposal for that yet because I don't want them working on it because they'll charge us for getting that together. So I said, just sit idle. I don't want you to charge us on that. But we did have to go through and have a change order that went through with excavation side of things. And so that's the only impact that we've had so far.
So is that a yes? It has impacted the budget?
Yes, it is a separate change order that is outside of the line item of the original contract. But we are still within the contingency budget of which we've set forth.
Thank you.
Not a
That's
problem.
what I was asking.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from Director Addington, who will discuss the impact on library operations of our serving as a polling place in the upcoming election.
Thank you very much, sir. So yeah, after the last meeting, and apologies I couldn't make it, but I did get some updates from Deputy Director Roy. It was brought to my attention that there was a question about the impact on polling. So I just put together a quick memo. I won't go through the whole thing. I'll basically sum up the very end, which is that we really do expect there to be minimal impact on library operations, and really kind of look at this as an opportunity to perhaps be exposed to people who wouldn't normally come to our library. We do anticipate there may be a little more parking, on the roof and around. But honestly, that's about it. We're very prepared. We have been a polling place before, so we do have some understanding. I think we believe that it will be a big vote this year. But we're very prepared for it. The staff is very aware of it. The biggest impact is that we had to move a couple of rental opportunities around, but we were able to either put them in another location, or they were able to cancel for that week or that month, or everybody was very understanding and appreciative that we were actually a polling place. So I don't think the impact will be substantial. I think it'll be okay.
In the past, I think we've had one of those strong boxes where you can drop off your ballot prior to Election Day. Are we having one
That will
of
be
those?
completely up to the LA County
So we
and
don't
how
know.
they run it. So if they choose, or if they have those options of places where they can drop them, then they'll put one. Otherwise, it'll just be whatever they put in place. So-
And I think those boxes are permanent where they are now, so Palos Verdes Estates has one
Yeah.
permanently located.
Rancho Palos Verdes City Hall does too.
They
but
have one too,
I
yeah.
didn't-
RHE does too.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions on that?
Excuse me.
Okay.
So
now-
it's-
Sorry, go ahead.
So it's June and November as well?
Correct, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes. So in fact, each time it's several weeks because of their setup, voting, and then tear down. But yeah, it'd be in both times.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, now item 12, an update to policy regarding code of conduct, excuse me. Deputy Director Roy.
Sure, thank you. I'm sure we've all noticed over the past few years the rise in popularity of e-bikes, possibly in your neighborhoods, on your streets, all over the place. These have been more and more prevalent here at the library, and because they tend to be very expensive items, patrons who own them like to bring them into the library. And so this is just an update to our code of conduct that would designate that these must remain outside in areas that we designate as places for bikes. But also we've structured this language to be a little more broad, not just for electronic bikes, but for regular bikes, any motorized vehicles that are not used for ADA purposes. This fits perfectly into our code of conduct, where we already call out things almost in order of popularity over the years: roller skates, roller blades, skateboards, hoverboards, scooters. Now we're adding to that electronic bikes. You can bring them to the library, you just can't bring them in the library, is what we want this policy to say. So we've proposed some language here for the board to approve. It'll just fit right into number 7 in our code of conduct, which already prohibits a lot of these wheeled vehicles. We added this language with a little specificity. It's not just saying wheeled vehicles, but going into detail about which ones, so there wouldn't be any uncertainty for patrons who might read our code of conduct whether or not their e-bike can come into the library. So the language is there in the memo for the board to consider, and we're recommending that the board approve this update to the policy.
All right.
I'm curious where the designated areas are now, and if this policy goes into effect and there's all that construction going on, where would they park their
Yes,
vehicles?
That's a great question, and one I've had from patrons. So currently, our only bike rack that's available right now during the construction is on Silver Spur. There is a bike rack in front of the
down
entrance
there,
at Silver
yep.
Spur. I've told patrons, if that's full, we can find a place for you, but it's never really filled up. Although We did have a bike rack in the area that's under construction now, so we're keeping an eye on it. There will be an extra bike rack once that area is completed. There will be 2 in that area rather than 1. So we do anticipate part of that project increasing the amount of designated areas for e-bikes.
I will say there's also a designated annex bike area on the roof. There's not a great deal of locking mechanisms up there, but what we tried to do was get the students who are going to the annex to not just drop their bikes in front of the door and go in, but like actually put them somewhere. But there are also opportunities, maybe not ideal, but again, ones that you could talk to us about. Even on the second level parking, we have had people come into the administration office and say, I don't want to just leave my bike. Can I lock it here against this railing? And we've said, yeah, okay, sure. We understand where you are and we understand what you're doing. So I do think that once the construction on Deep Valley is complete, there will be double the bike racks. There's bike areas on the roof and potentially even places where you could lock them on the roof if you asked us. And we could make exceptions for people who needed to lock them on the second floor too. So it does require, somebody to take a little bit of ownership and a little bit of responsibility for their own equipment, but we can always find you a place if you come and approach us. What we don't want and what we are seeing is people bringing their e-bikes in and like hiding them under the stairs and putting them down in Silver Spur in the foyer and like tucking them off into corners. And we're just like, no, you really can't do that. Or people who are straight up like, can I just bring it with me to the study room? And we're like, no, you cannot bring it into the library.
So how do you enforce that when you don't know who the owner is and when they're coming back, if you find one under the stairs?
You really
Or-
can't. I mean, in many ways, you kind of have to just leave it. And it seems irresponsible to me because they haven't locked it. They've just sort of hidden it away. But if we can see it, so can many other patrons,
In general, they like to keep it within eyesight of
yeah, they'll
themselves.
do
So a
that
lot of
too.
times you can say, is this anyone's bike? And somebody will
Somebody
raise
will
their
say, oh, it's mine. But, so we're just trying to make it clear to the patrons, you cannot wheel your bike in the library. You should not bring it into the foyer and hide it under the stairs. You really do need to secure it somewhere. We will have secure areas for it. And in the meantime, all you have to do is talk to us.
Is there some way we could put a bike rack up by the annex? Because it does seem that that would be the demographic perhaps that would most likely to have their bikes.
We could explore some kind of security feature where that goes. It's a little more challenging because there's the 2 handicap stalls right there, so you've really got to be mindful about where we put them. But we could explore that. We could look. No, it's okay.
Thank you. I
You're
would like you to
absolutely
explore
welcome.
that.
Yeah, we will.
I do appreciate your comment about the putting it near the handicapped.
Right.
Because that was an issue with the new bike that they had proposed to put in out front. And so
That it
we
was by
don't
the
want to.
handicap, right.
Yeah, so we don't want to create. Right.
Exactly.
Right. All right, any other questions or comments from the trustees? Can I have a motion to approve the updates to the policy as presented?
So moved. Let's keep it going here.
All right, motion made by Secretary Winbury. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. And now another update on proposed update to policies, and this time I'll turn it over to Director Addington.
Thank you, sir. So, you have a memo and some red line policy in your packet. It was brought to my attention that there were a couple of questions about the election wording as we added back in 8020.4 last month. I believe it was Secretary Wittenberry, who also noted that some of our other election policies might be a little confusing or perhaps poorly written, and had a couple of questions about them. So I went through them and reviewed them, looked up a bunch of education and election code, just had a kind of a robust discussion with Deputy Director Roy and Executive Assistant Bender, and we do absolutely acknowledge that some of the language is a little confusing. So I tried to update it in such a way that it would just simply make more sense. It is accurate. There's nothing wrong with it, but it isn't very clear. There's no doubt about that. So I'll just go through them. The three that I am suggesting updates to are 8020.0, which is election of Board of Library Trustees. And what we've done here, or what I've done here in the red line, is simply try to change the language in such a way that it makes it very clear when the trustees take office. I believe that might have been one of the questions as well, is just some confusion. So trustees who are elected in the November election take office the last Friday of November. And that can be the 28th, it can be the 29th. They don't put a date to it. They always say it's the last Friday in November following their election date. But there is a difference between assuming office and getting sworn in. Once you're elected in November, you can be sworn in at any time after that and up until you sit at your first meeting. But you assume the office, which doesn't mean that's your first meeting, but you assume the office, your term begins the last Friday in November. Because there's many agencies that their board meeting is the first Tuesday or the first Wednesday. So your term always starts that last week in November. So you can be sworn in before that, but if you're like us, we don't have a meeting until the third Thursday. We have one of the later board meetings of many organizations. A lot of them are earlier in the month. So we have a rather late meeting. So for us personally, if your term begins the last Friday in November, your first meeting as an elected official is the December meeting. You can be sworn in any time from basically November 6th all the way to that first meeting in December, at any moment. And your term begins on that last Friday. But you cannot take any action as a board member until both those things happen. So your term must start, and you must be sworn in. So it kind of depends on how agencies want to do that. So in the election of Board of Library Trustees, in 8020.0, I just cleared up some of the language, and I did add that trustees may be sworn in prior to this date. However, they cannot assume any official duties or vote on board matters until the last Friday in November when their term officially begins. So just trying to make it a little more clear.
So may I respond?
Please, yes.
So I understand that. I'm very glad that we're clarifying that. It does seem a tad bit awkward if the person is sworn in at the November meeting, which will occur before the last Friday in November, but not be able to participate until the following meeting in December. And that is what you're saying, correct? I just want to make sure I understand.
They technically could. I will be honest and say we typically don't do that. I mean, again, it is part of the procedure and the procedures of the agency itself. You really wouldn't swear somebody in before the other person is out of their seat. So again, your term goes, like if I'm elected and my term is ending, your term might start the last Friday, but I have an end date, and my end date isn't until that, also that like last Friday. So when we get the certification from the registrar's office, it'll say Trustee Jones' term is from this date to this date. So it typically is, the terms go to the November board meeting. So your November board meeting is your last board meeting if you're being termed out, or if you've lost your election, or if you've chosen not to run. November is your last day, and then the new trustee starts, and we typically try to swear them in sometime between the November meeting and the December meeting. And it is true, and one of the reasons why, and I did worry about opening up a can of worms, I will admit, to even adding in 8020.2, which is about swearing in. That did say that everyone would be sworn in prior to the December meeting. That's what the policy stated. We have not been doing that. And it is not a legal requirement, it was a policy thing. I still think, and I did add, that it is typical to swear in the new trustees directly before the December meeting. But it is not required. And if the board or if a trustee wanted to have a special swearing in, we could do that, and we have. So I wanted to acknowledge that in the policy, that it is an option, but to kind of call out that in many ways, it would be sort of ideal to swear them in directly before the December meeting. And I don't mean even necessarily in the meeting, because I appreciate it and I think it's important to have family, to take photos. So it would still require a special meeting, but you could do a special meeting at 4:30 or 5, do the swearing in, have family, have friends. A swearing in typically only takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes. If that, and you have the opportunity to take pride in winning an election or being appointed or, whatever it was. And then you would start the December meeting. But I also know that that hasn't always been an option for us. Either people are busy or whatnot. And we have had special meetings that weren't that day, but maybe a week ahead of time, because we were able to invite more people, or, somebody was able to do the swearing in that was meaningful to a trustee. So I did want to call that out too. So that's why I even included the very last one about swearing in. So the trustee who's in the position their term has to end, and then you come in. But technically you could be sworn in. And again, if perhaps a trustee, in the case of Trustee Park, who left, you could be sworn in any time, and then you would have to just make sure that we would talk to the supervisor's office about when your term began. So
So the one thing I'm not clear about,
Okay.
and that you mentioned that's not reflected here, is that two things must happen. You must be sworn in, and you must, the term begins at the
Right.
last Friday. But I don't think anywhere it says here that you must be sworn in. So
Well-
unless I'm not seeing something. I mean, we've always had the ceremony, but is it required?
yes, you must be sworn in. I mean, you have to,
Maybe that's implied, but
I
it's
guess
not.
that's kind of implied, is
Yeah.
that you have to affirm the oath of allegiance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we could add something in there that says, in order to serve, the trustee must be sworn in. But yes, you must be sworn in.
Yeah, I think.
That's part of it. But I will admit, I think that's assumed. Everybody understands they have to go through a swearing-in ceremony.
Well,
or take the
when you-
oath of
when you-
office.
When you verbalized it, it
Yeah.
clicked.
Yeah, you
know?
got to have both.
Yeah, you have to have both. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it hurts to maybe make that stronger and clarify that. So we understand why these things have to happen in the timing.
I
required.
think it could be easily solved maybe in 8020.0, where I've added the line trustees may be sworn in. Prior to that, we could add one line that just says,
Trustees are required.
trustees are required to take the oath of office.
Yes.
They may be sworn in blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, you know?
They must be sworn in prior
Yeah.
to assuming their role or whatever it is, yeah. Right. Also, just a grammatical edit, if you don't mind, on that same paragraph, the red verbiage there. Trustees may be sworn in prior to this date. I think it should just be a period and then start the new sentence with however, comma.
That's fine.
And is there a reason why 8020.6 is above 8020.2?
Because the ones that I was, the ones that I felt were brought up, that
I see.
needed correction were 8020 and 8020.6. The one that I am personally bringing forward that nobody said anything about, but I think needs to be changed, is 8020.2.
Okay.
So I purposely put it in out of order, but
It will be
when it
in
goes
order.
into the policy, it'll go in order.
Okay.
Because my understanding is one of the other questions was, is there anything that could potentially throw off the rotation? Like, could somebody do like, be elected in such a way that would throw off the rotation? No, because we have the ability to change people's terms if we need to in order to keep it in. But without taking up too much time, if we have a vacancy on the board that's unexpected, that's not part of the regular election cycle. For example, we have a trustee who passed away. The board has 60 days of the date of the vacancy to either fill the vacancy by appointing a new trustee or by adopting a resolution calling for an election to fill the vacancy. And in talking to you earlier, President Butler, I was incorrect. I did more research on it. You were correct. If the board fails to act after 60 days, the LA County Board of Supervisors may fill it by either appointing a new library board of trustee or by calling for the election. If an appointment may be for the duration of the unexpired term, or if an election called, it would then be the next established election date, occurring at least 130 days after the vacancy. What this means is the board has the choice of filling a seat for the completion of the person's term or calling an election. Almost no one calls for an election because, of course, it's expensive. But an example of this, which we've never had happen, is a trustee is elected or appointed, and in their first 2 months of serving, something occurs and they vacate their office for whatever reason. The board could hold, just like we did, they could interview people and they could appoint a trustee for the next 3.5 years. Or they could say, you know what? We are not allowing the community to have a vote. And this person's only been in their seat for 2 months. We have plenty of time, 2 years, to get to this next election time. As long as you have 130 days, which allows you to get somebody onto a ballot, you've got plenty of time. We're going to say election. You can appoint somebody, but you can appoint them only until the next election. But then what you would do is talk to the supervisor's office and say, when that election comes up, we have 2 regular seats coming up for election. Those are 4-year seats. And we have 1 2-year seat. And it pulls everybody back into alignment. So I can understand that a board, that any organization would not want to do that because they're paying a larger election fee, and maybe they didn't anticipate having an election that year, or maybe they're, really mindful about kind of doing one vacancy, one person, one vacancy, one person, who knows? But they could. I originally, and one of the things I shared with President Butler is I thought you had to. call for that election if you had time. No, you do not. The board has a great deal of authority to determine how their board is organized. So to make it clear, though, I kind of changed the wording and said, an appointment may be for the duration of the unexpired term, or if an election is called, it would be the next established election date, occurring at least 130 days. California Election Code in accordance with, and shall be conducted in coordination with county election officials. This may result in the office appearing on the ballot in a year in which it would not normally be scheduled, and the term of the person elected may be shortened to align with district election cycles. And then this, for the purpose of this section, a vacancy shall be deemed to occur upon resignation, death, disqualification, or other event. This was just a line kind of suggested in good policy crafting to give some definition of what a vacancy might be. So what I'm hoping that this does now, and I believe it does, is it just makes it a little more clear. It was correct before, but it's a little more clear as to exactly how it works. And then again, going to the swearing in, just as I said, I wanted to make it very clear that maybe ideally, right before the December board meeting would be a good time to swear everybody in, but it could happen earlier. You just have to do both. You have to be sworn in, and your term has to start.
Can you explain how the language for the 130 days? I looked at the election code, but I couldn't
So
find.
you have to have at least 130 days prior to a general election before you can even decide that you want to do an election, because that's the amount of
time
time
they need.
they have determined you need to get somebody, they need to get somebody on the ballot. So if it was only, 3 months to the election, and for some reason a board seat became vacant, you couldn't even call, that you're not allowed to call for an election. That's too soon.
I see.
So at that point, the only option that the trustees would have is to appoint somebody. Interestingly, this whole calling for an election, it really only seems in any way potentially smart is if a trustee vacates in like the first year of their term. If something happens in the first year, and even then, you might be like, well, we've only got one more year, and then we've got a few people up for election anyway, and maybe it's only, but, in the first year and a half, it might make sense, but after that, it really doesn't make any sense.
So can you clarify one more thing for
yeah.
me? So
It's super confusing.
Yeah, it is confusing. So if somebody vacates within the first couple months of taking office, and there's an election held, when is it going to be, who decides that they will only serve until the next cycle?
You do.
Okay.
The board does.
Okay, I'm not sure that's clear in the language. I mean, I
Well,
didn't.
I mean, then you'd go to the election code.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to recreate election code in our policy, just in case, like, maybe something would change in election code. But if you go to go to California Election Code 1000 and really looked at it, it would lay it all out very clearly as like how everything works. But it is,
Yeah.
but you are correct that if in the first 3 months of a term, a seat should suddenly become vacant for some reason, it is the board who decides.
So instead of "this may result," can you clarify "the board may determine"?
Sure, where is that?
when
This
you-
may result,
It
Yeah.
says, "and shall be conducted in coordination with the county election." This may result in the office.
okay,
The board may determine,
that the office,
that the office appearing on the ballot, that to convey, I mean, I have to work on this a little bit, but
Well, the board may determine that the office appear on the ballot in a year in which it would not normally be scheduled.
yeah, I mean, to me, that sounds clear.
That's fine, because
it's-
that is true.
Yeah.
It's the board who
Yeah.
chooses.
I think that makes it clear.
You guys make the decision whether you're going to do interviews and appoint somebody for 3.5 years, or if you're going to do interviews and appoint somebody for 1 year and take it to an election.
Which doesn't make financial sense if you're holding an election again and not going through the appointment process, but
I mean,
it
we
is
do we budget for elections every election cycle. It is in our budget.
And others would be going through that cycle.
Yes,
so
because we
it's
have a
not-
3-2 cycle.
Right.
And it would just, if it was the 3, it would be a 4. If it was the 2, it would be a 3 instead. But then that person wouldn't do a 4-year term. You would shorten their term to get them back into sync. So it would just be that one time.
And I do think that, rather than looking at it as a financial situation, we need to be looking at it as a form of democracy.
Yeah.
That people need to have an opportunity to select who's representing them.
Yeah.
So when we made this decision, it was for the remainder of Trustee Park's position. And that was it. So now, that opportunity is coming up for others to put their names in for, and that's how we should always be looking at it. We should not, because it's required, I'm going to say it's required that we have elections and that people have an opportunity to vote and select who they want.
So again, just to clarify though, so if the case is that you are having an election for a trustee whose term then would be shorter than normal, and you're having that election at the same time as other seats, which would be for the full 4 years, can you explain in practicality, how does that work? Like, when you go to pull your papers, who gets allocated the shorter term? How does that get
It'd probably be a
decided?
separate.
You'd have to run for it. There would be
Right,
2
but-
4-year terms and 1 2-year term.
And what if no one runs for the 2-year term and?
Then you'd go through an appointment just like you would if nobody ran for, if you didn't have enough candidates, you wouldn't have enough candidates. And then we'd work with the supervisor's office and say, well, literally nobody ran for it. So now the board would probably do an appointment process. And they would say, well, we put it out there to the public, we ran 2 4-year terms, 1 2-year term. We didn't have anybody go for the 2-year term, but we've got a brand-new board, and we've got a quorum, so now we're going to do interviews, and we're going to appoint somebody for the 2-year term.
Thank you.
I think you might be surprised, more people might go for the 2-year term than even the 4-year term.
Right.
Can I ask you about it mentions the education code.
Yes.
Is that because we're a public library?
It
agency, so the
literally
education
is,
code-
yep.
Yeah.
It all falls under Article 2 Trustees of the Education Code. And Education Code 19422, a trustee shall hold office for the term of 4 years, beginning on the last Friday in November, next succeeding their appointment or election. And it is Title I General Education Code, provisions 1 through 32500, Division 1, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's the education
So we're
code.
basically dealing with 2 codes in this policy.
We
section.
are, there's a lot.
Election code.
Yeah, and then election codes, which does make it a little confusing,
Yeah.
but
Just wanted to make sure the statutory
Yeah.
citation was right.
I appreciate that.
Are there any other comments or questions on all of this redlining and this update proposal?
Well, I mean, we've actually had some mid-conversation changes, so do we have to go ahead and move to accept the document with the changes approved?
Have the changes
Yes.
been,
Yeah. They've been documented. The first change in 8020.0, with the exception of the redlining, would be prior to the sentence that starts in the second paragraph, trustees may be sworn in. We would add a sentence that say, trustees must be sworn in prior to assuming office. They may, well, does that make sense now? And may be sworn in prior to, instead of this date, I'll make it more clear and say prior to the beginning of their term, and then period.
However,
Yeah, and then capitalize however. Yeah.
one other question on that is, members of the Board of Library Trustees term, is there an apostrophe? I mean, it's wordsmithing, but the term of the members of the Board of Library Trustees, I'm not sure which.
Pursuant to Education Code Section
Oh, yeah.
19422, members of the Board of Library Trustees, term begins the last Friday in. Members of the Board of Library
Probably
Trustees.
the term
Probably
of.
an
term-
apostrophe.
Or either, or
Or
the
term
term
of.
of. Yeah, I think that's clear.
Okay. The term of members of the Board of Trustees begins the last Friday in November. Okay. Pursuant to Education Code Section 19422, the term of members of the Board of Library Trustees begins the last Friday in November following their election. Trustees must be sworn in prior to assuming office and may be sworn in prior to the beginning of their term. Period. However, they cannot assume any official duties or vote on board matters until the last Friday in November, when their term officially begins. And then in 8020.6, in the second paragraph, after the sentence, "and shall be conducted in coordination with county elected officials," the board may determine that the office appear on the ballot in a year in which it would not normally be scheduled for election.
One other word to consider is if the Board of Library Trustees fails to act. I think it's the board as an entity. I think that's how you refer to it, correct? It's a singular rather
If
than
the Board of
plural.
Library Trustees
Fails.
Fails.
fails, okay, perfect, fails to act. Excuse me. So, yes, trustee Wong, we would be looking for a motion to approve the updates to these policies with corrections.
And one last
Yep.
word is the 8020.2, the title, I don't know whether swearing in should be capitalized or not.
Capitalize in, swearing in and seating? Yeah, I think that would work fine, too. In.
Is it
Capitalize.
hyphenated as a noun? I don't know.
This word is problematic in that respect.
Any other comments or questions or edits? Okay. Thank you very much. At this time, can I have a motion to approve the revisions to policy 8020.0, 8020.6, and 8020.2 as presented, with also including the additional revisions we've made in the last few minutes?
I so move with the caveat that I just looked it up, and it is in fact hyphenated.
It is?
Swearing in.
Oh, great.
And you have it hyphenated down in the body of the text, in
Oh.
the last paragraph.
Swearing in, hyphenated.
Yes,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you very
And
much.
but it's not hyphenated in the first sentence,
Right.
if a typical swear-in.
Okay. Motion made by Secretary Wittenberry, including all the revisions. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. We'll get these all updated and out as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to election for special district voting member of LAFCO for the term expiring in May 2030. Back to you, Director Addington.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be honest, I have very little input to give you on this particular decision. You have in your packet the candidate statements, all the information. Executive Assistant Bender also included an email that she received from one of the candidates simply asking for our vote. I don't personally know any of the candidates running for this position. As is very typical with LAFCO, you'll note that they're all water districts of a kind. We have weighed a little more to people who have taken a tiny bit of extra effort. If anybody ever comes to our meetings, we usually give them our vote. I will say the one candidate did at the very least email us asking for our support. But unless any of the trustees have any knowledge or any particular feeling about one candidate over the other, I personally do not. I have no recommendation.
Who is the member who?
I believe it was
Email?
included in the packet, but I
Vera
want to say it was
DeWitt.
Vera.
Sarah DeWitt.
Yeah. I will say that I finally met a LAFCO member at special district meeting.
Yeah.
And she was very enthusiastic and served CSDA many years. So,
Is she running by any
no,
chance?
she's not, but
I know.
as a.
I'm sure they're wonderful. We just
and-
don't know them.
And she was from a water district,
Yeah.
so it's very common.
Very heavily water districts.
Yeah, I'm just going to make this general observation for our newest trustee. What we sometimes do is, if in the blue moon occasion, there was somebody who was in the special district library, we would look at them rather heavily. But that's a very, very, I don't think I've ever seen it happen yet. And then sometimes geographically, what we do is we kind of take a look at, does the candidate, does their special district, are they geographically close to us? So therefore, there might be some type of affinity there. But in this particular, and then of course are the rare instances in which we've, either through CSDA or just in our travels around, we actually meet somebody who is a member of LAFCO and their name pops up somewhere down the line. So there might be a little bit of recognition there. But in this particular case, you've got some, I mean, I'm assuming Roland Water is like Roland Park, or, Carson, that's down the road. But with that general statement, it's a toss-up. We really don't know these people and their water districts.
So we have three.
I don't know where
options.
Vera is from, but she has a 310 area code telephone number.
That district,
She-
we're
she did
in
email
that
us,
district.
yeah.
She did email us.
Yeah.
Well, it says residence address is in Carson.
Where does it say that?
In her
On
letter.
her
it says-
application.
Yeah, she's she's on the board of directors for the Carson Community
Yeah.
Foundation. That's
nice.
close.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seems good.
I would support her.
If you want to make a motion.
So how's the motion?
A motion that the Board of Library Trustees select candidate's name to serve as special district, I guess, voting member for LAFCO for a
Okay.
term expiring in May 2030.
I so move.
With the name
Vera DeWitt.
Vera DeWitt.
Okay. We have a motion made by trustee Uno. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you very much. I
And your-
will sign the ballot.
In your travels, you didn't meet any of these people?
I don't think,
No? Okay.
other people on the same boards, but not these actual three. But
Interesting.
all right, thank you very much. And now moving on, we'll hear from trustee Uno on the recent CSDA Legislative Days Conference. So the time is now yours, trustee
Okay.
Uno.
So I attended the CSDA Legislative Conference last week, and I finally met some of the members from Placentia Public Library. So we were not assigned on the first day to the same group. So for your reference, day one, we're assigned to a group, and we get legislative updates, and then we go off and we talk to legislators or their staffers. So I was assigned to a group from San Diego Water District. So that was interesting. And I feel like it was a smaller group. So they said there were about 200 of us this year. And it seemed like it was smaller than it was last year. We were in a different hotel, so that also contributed to it. So the outline for the legislative office visits was to thank the member for supporting legislative or special districts. So last week was special districts week in the. Then we talked a lot about AI. So there are a number of AI bills that are up for discussion and for voting this time. And so I did not speak on that because, for one, I personally have issues with AI. But two, we as a group have not taken a position on AI. So a number of the request or the bills that they were against, and so they were against two specifically. So one is AB 1898 by Schultz, and it's an unworkable restrictions on workplace technologies that use artificial intelligence. And so they're looking at placing restrictions on the use of AI and surveillance operations and decision-making conducted by an employer by requiring significant repeated notices. So CSDA feels that putting those restrictions doesn't work for special districts. And so they would like the language changed to exclude special districts. And so they're not supporting that. The other one is AB 2027, and that's by ward, and they have prohibitions on using workplace AI technology trained with worker data. And so there's a requirement to let people know when worker data is being used. And so again, what they feel is that it's limiting progress in AI. So, as I said, I have issues with AI personally, so I chose not to speak on that. But they're asking for a no vote on that one as well. So those are the two that they specifically called out, but there were about 8 bills that are being discussed. And then the last one that they were asking for a no vote on is, so there's currently consideration of a proposal by the California High-Speed Rail Authority to include seeking statutory permission for the authority to form and lead tax increment financing districts that would capture property tax and sales tax growth within a 1/2 mile radius of high-speed rail stations. Now, that would not impact us because there are no high-speed rail stations, but it would have significant consequences for other communities. And so we were asking them to not be in favor of that. So regarding legislative updates, they are still seeking additional updates to the Brown Act. And I did not receive the slides yet. So when I receive those, I'll just make them available to the rest of you so you can look at them.
Thank you.
You know, just as a quick observation, because I've been to many of these CSDA, and I understand that CSDA incorporates a lot of different organizations, and they basically have to look at all of the legislation going through the process, and they have to go ahead and decide which ones they want to go ahead and bring to attention during CSDA legislative days. And hearing what I hear now, and based off of my previous visits, it's been a while since they've highlighted any legislation that actually affects us. I mean, I know that we're a big organization and it's
Yeah.
not about us. I mean, you know, I remember one time that they had a piece of legislation that was talking about the threshold in terms of, you know, putting out requests for bids, which affected us. And there were certain things about vehicles that affected us potentially. But yeah, it's been a little while since they really wanted to go ahead and focus on something that affects us.
There's not a great deal of library-centric bills, but I think to your point, what absolutely affects us is Brown Act, RFPing, human resources, laws that come in about employee relations, union, you know, things like that. We fall under all of those. Website accessibility issues, you know, anything that has to do with that, you know, unlike maybe some of the city libraries, we have to abide by every single one of those. So in some ways, I'm sort of thankful that there's no very specific library bills that CSDA has to fight on, because there's plenty of other things that come down that definitely impact us, and we have to make sure that we're adhering to.
And in the legislative updates, there probably was one or two that.
Right.
But they told us that they were going to send us the slides, and I don't see them in
Right. Yeah.
my email. So, but while we were wandering around, because we had 8 legislative offices to visit, 2 of them, no one could meet with us, and so those were just drop-offs. So I attended 4 of them, but we had like an hour between 2 of those. So we were, just sitting around. But, they had the, excuse me, they had the sessions playing on televisions, and so we were able to see some of them. And so one that they were talking about that caught my eye was e-bikes. And so I was thinking about that when you were mentioning. So I think they had just gotten back in the session and they were very busy. So we didn't meet with an actual legislator except Tina I want to get her name right. Tina McKenna, Assembly District 61. And that's...
Which is near us.
Yeah. She came in at the end of our meeting with her staffer.
Oh, that's good.
So we did get a chance to meet with her. And we met with Al Morisucci's staffer as well.
Nice.
Trustee Uno, to Director Addington's point, I know there were more AI bills than the 2 that they singled out, but the first one you mentioned, did that happen to be one that included the requirement to have an actual person in the loop on employment decisions that were initially generated by AI? Because I do think that affects us, and I know that is in one of those bills up there.
I don't see that here.
Okay, and maybe it's in one of the other AI bills
Yeah.
that you weren't directed to, but
Yeah.
just to flag that, that is, I don't know the number of it, but that is something to watch.
Sure.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions for Trustee Uno? Great, thanks for sharing the update. Glad you could make it. And now we'll move on to the District Director's monthly report. District Director Addington.
Thank you very much. I'll keep this short. You have my report in your packet. I just wanted to call out that we did have a very nice groundbreaking ceremony, and we had a lot of people attend. And I've heard, even with the construction and the challenges of entry, really I've heard no complaints. Everybody's been very excited about the possibility and the potential of what that entryway is. So I'm pretty pleased with how the community has reacted. I also just wanted to note, as Daniel mentioned earlier, I did add some more additional information about the South Bay Cities Council of Governments and the SoCal Regional Energy Network, which is called the SoCal REN. I think Daniel and I both are pretty pleased that our buildings are doing as well as they are and ranking as high as they are. And, we're very, very close to getting a green certificate on both branches and potentially this library as well. So very happy about that. And then I'll end. Obviously, I can answer any questions that you may have. I just want to call out the Passport Fair. This is our 4th year of doing it, and it was, again, a very successful one. I do think that we're losing some people to online renewals, which is totally understandable. We appreciate that. But there are still quite a few people who come in. We made over $5,000 in just one day, and, of course, helped out 125 applicants who got their passports done. And then I'll just call out very quickly that we did hire our new volunteer coordinator. Jillian Gordon joined us just this Monday, so on the 13th. We did steal her away from the foundation. She had worked for the Peninsula Library Friends Foundation for a few years, very familiar with us, familiar with our volunteers, had actually worked as a volunteer before going to the foundation, so we're very, very happy to have her on board. And then, as I always do, I'll end just by acknowledging that David Ishizaka was selected this year by his peers this month, to be the Staff Pay It Forward Award recipient. David is the acquisitions clerk down in Technical Services. He's the one who actually puts in the order and receives all of the books into the library, so he has a very important and challenging job, and well worth being our Staff Pay It Forward Award winner. I won't get into a lot of detail, happy to answer any questions, but really good month, successful library programs. We're doing very well, and I think people are very happy.
I have a question about Jillian.
Please.
She was the interim, or have been the interim? Or was that Diana?
Diana Morgan is
She's
stepping up to be the
she's
interim.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And I can talk a little bit more about that in the PFL update.
Okay.
In terms of the comment about the passport and passport volumes, I would just go ahead and say, just continue to do whatever promotions you guys
Absolutely.
are doing. As State Department, their systems become more user-friendly, you're going to see some of the people, go that direction. But one of the observations I'll make is that for some reason, the people who come through our channel, they always seem to have the complex case.
Well, I think one of the things people have been able to share with the community is the very personal, high-touch customer service that we provide. So if you come in with divorced parents and some stepchildren and multiple different nationalities, our team can absolutely assist you. And I think that definitely has gotten out. The actual passport fair may not have been quite as busy as usual, but March in and of itself was still a very busy month, and they still processed a great deal of passports even outside of the passport fair itself. So I think we're definitely getting the reputation and have the reputation for you can bring your family and maybe your extended family, and if you have some identification challenges or nationality changes or whatnot, we have a very, very high touch, high customer service program here, and it gets noted. So.
Very good. All right. Now the PLFF report, again with Director Addington.
Thank you. So just very quickly, I did attend their meeting on April 9th. So as far as the staffing for the foundation goes, Jillian Gordon, who was one of their 3 employees, left on April 13th. She took a position with us as our volunteer coordinator. And Merlin David, the executive director of the foundation's last day is tomorrow. So he will be taking a position as the development director for the Peninsula Education Foundation. So Diana Morgan, who is the last of their paid staff, will be, and is a current employee for the foundation, will assume more of a leadership role in the interim. It is my understanding, although I wasn't a part of the conversation, that the board, with their executive board taking the lead, will be working on hiring a replacement and are, potentially going to go through a firm and kind of reevaluate or evaluate what they need in the position, what they're looking for, and then look for a new executive director. I have been continuing my almost monthly, if not more so, conversations with Susan Paul, the president of their board, and they just and talking to them about funding and whatnot. They did just recently approve, I'll start with saying their current fiscal year 25-26 contribution included monies towards the Deep Valley entryway to the tune of $850,000. And we are spending that and invoicing them appropriately. When it's all said and done, they will probably pay for about half of that project. And there is potentially the opportunity to even go back to them for more, but we're in conversation, Susan and I, about what they're funding and what the future looks like. They are paying for all of the new furniture, as Daniel indicated earlier, out on the Deep Valley entryway, and they have approved an amount for that. And as Daniel said, he and I are working with Susan and one of their board members on the paver project. So we do not need to have that project in place. We don't have to have the policies in place before the entryway is completed. We fully expect to finish the entryway and then unveil that project. So we do have a little bit of time, but we're trying to see, like, aesthetically how they can be engraved, what they might look like, what the costs are. And we'll be coming back to the board with more information on that. So as far as future funding, at their April 9th meeting, the foundation did approve a total ask from the library of $1,289,300 for fiscal year 26-27. And this includes $312,300 for our operational. This is all in our budget as well, so if you go to our budget under gifts and grants, this will all be laid out. They also agreed to fund a dedication plaque for the Deep Valley entryway when it is finally finished. In next month's meeting, I will be bringing a suggestion wording for that plaque and hopefully a naming, not a donor name, but just a name change for that area to make it a little bit nicer than entryway. So we're going to see what we can do. And they've also committed $600,000 for the Malaga Cove roof replacement and repair. That will probably not be the total amount for that project, but it's a wonderful start, and we're incredibly pleased at their generosity at, $1.3 million. It's a wonderful 26-27 year. So I'm also working with Susan, and we'll be presenting at their next meeting on some potential contributions from the foundation on the creation of a proposed new patio area at the Malaga Cove Library that would highlight the statue that we're envisioning to commemorate Romaine Martin, the creator of our library district. She's the one who actually championed our library district when it started, and we have a conceptual idea of creating a new patio space for that. So it's in the very, very early process right now. We don't have any costs, but it is something that I'll be bringing to the board so that you can kind of see what we're envisioning and talking to the foundation about their potential support. I also have a very, very dedicated donor who's been grilling me on what that might cost and what their own possible contributions could be. So I think it's a really, really neat opportunity to enhance the Malaga Cove Library, to create more outdoor space, more patron seating space outside, and acknowledge somebody who's gone completely unacknowledged in that community. So that's very good.
So,
And then, please.
just a quick question.
No, please.
So where would that be? Would it be outside of the,
It would be outside what we often refer to as the back emergency door. If you exit where those bathrooms are in the librarian's offices, if you exit those doors off to your left-hand side, many people don't even really think about it or notice it because it's just hedges. There's just a walkway and hedges and some birds of paradise plants. But that area is all part of library property, and there's really nothing there. And so we have a concept of being able to create something more outside, a flagstone patio area, which would feature the sculpture and create a space for patrons, for library staff, for anybody to enjoy, another outdoor patio space. And while there's the park, which is gorgeous, there's very, very little outdoor space around that library. So
Right.
it's a concept.
and the park belongs to
Park
the
belongs
city?
to the city.
Yeah.
And everything beyond basically our walkway, that's all the city, and the walkway itself belongs to the city.
Yeah.
But this actually is a little corner that belongs to us.
Is that beyond the parking spot that's there? I'm trying to envision it. Is it
So the
outside the window of the
It's-
room where we have our meetings?
Yes, so the meeting room is here, it's like next to that meeting room, the community room, but the parking space is actually over here by the kitchen door.
Oh.
So it's more, it faces the park.
Faces the park.
Yeah, it's not around the corner. It faces the park. So it's a nice little spot. So could be very cool.
Never noticed it.
Exactly, because it's just hedge and dirt, But we're going to make it something else. And then as far as programming with the foundation, we do have a couple of shared events coming up, and they have again committed to supporting us for our bookmark contest. That's our next big bookmark contest. But and it is my understanding that they will continue with their financial series of programmings. But I think programming is a little uncertain right now with the change in leadership. So I think once they get new executive director or whatever role they deem is more appropriate or will be more useful to them, I'll continue to work with them. My meetings with Susan have been very, very successful, and I think, I hope to just continue down that road, so.
So you said that David is transitioning.
His last day is tomorrow with the
Okay.
foundation.
Okay.
And I believe his first day with the Peninsula Education Foundation is Monday. I think he's basically transitioning straight over to them.
Okay. I was just, trying to figure out why I was still getting emails from him.
He still works
So-
here. His last day is tomorrow,
Okay.
All right.
and that's all. Thank you.
Great. Well, we wish Merlin well and wish
Absolutely.
the foundation well as they figure out what they plan to do
Absolutely.
moving into the next chapter.
Yeah.
Great. Now, number 18, we'll turn the time over to the Community Relations Committee.
Since we're talking about the Malaga Cove Library, I'll just report on one of the Friends Foundation's events that was held there recently, called Books Build Bridges, and it featured 6 local authors talking about their books, and it was very well attended. There was somebody from Supervisor Hahn's office there. Director Addington was there. There was a librarian from Penn High was there. I think the former Malaga Cove librarian, Cindy
Miller.
was
She was our
there.
branch librarian.
Trustee Wittenberry was there. The 6 local authors spanned all the genres. There was nonfiction, memoirist who wrote about his disability, a nonfiction writer who talked about the profession of organizing, which was really interesting. 2 children's authors, YA fantasy author, and I was honored to be invited to talk about my historical fiction novel, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful community building event. There were probably, I don't know, it was full. Also, the local restaurant or store, Lanada Bay Market, donated a wonderful sort of tea sandwiches and spread. So that was really a nice community building activity.
Thank you.
So I'll just piggyback on that by saying that it was in fact a wonderful event, and Rosa did a wonderful job. So very proud to see her up there and called out as a trustee as well. Also, I wish I'd known that food was going to be as substantial as it was, because, they billed it as a tea, and I thought it was going to be like little pastries. So I'd already eaten lunch, but it was full-on lunch.
It was
And-
full on. It's delicious.
And Jocelyn, who owns Lunada Bay Market, did provide that, and that was wonderful. I also wanted to piggyback on what President Butler had said about the George F. Canyon groundbreaking. So the library did play a slightly larger role in that apparently no one knows George F.'s full name. And so that came up as sort of the mystery of the peninsula, and we did suggest that perhaps they reach out to Monique and see if she could come up with an answer on that. But the ideas ranged from the fact that perhaps he was Jorge F. E.F.F., and that somehow that had, not Georg, sorry, Georg F.E.F.F., and that had somehow gotten truncated to just F. But in any case, I just wanted to point that out because it was kind of fun and tied in with the library, and it was nice to be there.
Great.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, Government Relations Liaison Report. Trustee Uno.
I just have one thing left over from last month when I didn't have my phone and I didn't have what I was going to mention, but it's actually been updated since then. So it's about the California State Parks Pass, and yes, it was renewed, and there was a hope that it would, that there would be dedicated funding for it, and there wasn't. And so there's a bill, Assembly Bill 1804, which takes a different tack. The legislation authorizes California State Parks to work with the California State Library on the PASS program without referencing funding. So that is in discussion, and on April 8th, it was in committee, and it's set its first hearing, and it's been referred to appropriations. So hopefully that will continue, and we won't, every year not know if it's going to continue.
Have to be crying about money.
Yeah.
If I may I add one more thing as well? I just wanted to acknowledge, and this just came out fairly recently, just in like the last week, but the American Library Association and AFSCME, one of the larger municipal employee unions, reached an agreement, a settlement agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice, protecting the Institute of Museum and Library Services funding. So this, basically for the last year, the Trump-Vance administration has been trying to gut the IMLS and lawsuits, throughout the entire nation. But this settlement basically ensures that IMLS will be able to continue carrying out its congressionally mandated work. IMLS is, in fact, the only federally funded, dedicated agency to providing funding for the nation's libraries. So just kudos to everybody who lobbied for ALA, who lobbied for AFSCME, who lobbied for libraries, because I think this is going to be, it is a victory for the library profession. Who knows what will happen in the future, but at least for right now, it seems like funding for IMLS is temporarily saved, and then we'll just see what happens. But it was wonderful news to get in National Library Week.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you for bringing that up, because I had forgotten.
No,
that-
perfect. Yeah,
that
it was good news, and we're pretty happy to see that happen, so.
Did you want to talk about the two magazines too?
Sure, I can very quickly. We probably should have brought it up in community outreach, but that's
I'm
okay.
just thinking about that.
Just very quickly wanted to acknowledge that the library did have a small feature in the Peninsula magazine. There's a little half page of the groundbreaking ceremony, which was very nice. And we also made it into PV magazine, a little half page about, again, the groundbreaking ceremony that we did, and then also acknowledgement that the library and some of its staff were at the CS Dominguez Hills South Bay Economic Forecast. So it was just nice to kind of see the library out there in print, and very excited. So if you want to take a look, I have them here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so items for future agendas. Director Addington, can
Yeah.
you share the list with us?
I can. So just as a reminder, in May, we will be at the Malaga Cove Library. The biggest thing on the agenda is the first reading of the budget. We will have incorporated all the feedback from library directors and the PFL funding, so we'll be able to share all of that with you. We will have a facility update. And there may be some update on the director review. We will have had, I think, 2 meetings by then. So I'm not sure if that'll be an agenda item or if it'll just be something ongoing. But the other thing is that you should have the director compensation conversation in May, so, which is at the next meeting, so that it can be incorporated into the final reading of the budget in June. So you may or may not be aware that the director's performance review can be done in special meetings and not in public. Director compensation must be done in public. So you have to talk about compensation in public. So that's something that should happen at the May meeting.
Okay. Any other items anyone wants to suggest for future agendas? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 21. Can I have a motion to approve, to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Motion made by trustee Easton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the meeting is adjourned now at 7:34, if that's right.